Alrighty. Take this vest off. So, here I am doing a few things. Primarily here getting... I'm not sure if that's visible. Oh, actually. OBS. Let's get this recording at the same time. Maybe. There we go. Yeah, it's fine. Display capture and let's start recording. Okay. As we were. Right. So I've got OBS. I'm hoping I can at least will at least be visible on the screen. Hopefully. Anyway, so I am capturing data to try and determine how much I'm tempting fate by driving my pretty busted car. That seems almost like a good place for that to go. Oh, and okay. My apologies for this being a little disjointed. There we go. Okay. So, gathering data on how much I'm tempting fate to go horribly, horribly wrong as I limp my little car around in first and third gear, because that's all it does. Let me just clear some of these cables out of my working room so that I'm not fighting a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff the whole time. And I'll go ahead and throw these headphones on, some music on, and okay, sorry. I had a question from a coworker. Anyway. Get the headphones connected. Get some music going. And then we can get going. Pigeonometry. Alright, I am ready. It only took like 15 tries. So, gathering data to see with my transmission only going into first and third, and me having to drive 40 miles each way for work, I want to see how bad I'm doing by my car. So gathering some data. Additionally, I'm going to be delving into some shit here. So, since November of last year, have not had a home. For the first several months of the time period in the interim, I was primarily living in my car. It broke down, which is why the whole data acquisition process, and why I'm doing funky stuff with my shifter here. This is a dual clutch transmission, Volkswagen's DSG. So are you actually turning, or what do we got going on? Oh, hell yeah. Right, so, I'm doing my funky little hand thing here because my car keeps going into limp mode on the transmission. Fortunately, the limp mode that gives me first and third, not the one that only gives me second. So that's nice. Can I throw this over here? There we go. That ought to keep that camera a little cooler. So with that, I'm driving this distance. I'm chilling around, well, 3,200 RPM-ish right now at about 45 miles an hour in third gear, and that can get as high as, well, very close to redlining at highway speeds. But my funky hand thing here is, if I don't do anything and I just let the car try to do its thing, it hangs out in neutral forever. It just sits there because it's trying to, it can't do what it's supposed to. It can't do the things that it's supposed to do the way it was designed to do them. Understandable. I can relate. So, throwing it into neutral and then back into drive gives me a speedier shift from first to third. Now that that is out of the way, the homelessness. The car broke down, so I sat living in the parking lot of my place of work in my car the majority of the time. 4 nights a week I was typically sleeping in my car, spending the other 3 my weekend when I wasn't working at a nearby hotel, getting Uber ride there and to work or whatever, or occasionally a ride from one of my coworkers. And then I was able to borrow my boss's old car for a period of time. He then had to take it back because he needed to get his new car repaired. Just visual cosmetic damage. It was some hail. So that's cool. And then I came to the point where it started getting hot in good old Houston, Texas. And I just plain and simple could not sleep anymore. I was getting 30-45 minutes of sleep a night because I was just laying here fully reclined, sweating, dripping, and it was terrible. And so I made the decision at that point in time to move into the hotel full-time. And that's expensive. very expensive. But I was banking up the rewards points because I was staying at one hotel, the same I'd been staying my 3 nights a week at or whatever, and it was good. Except for how expensive it was. So, after a while of doing that, I set up a reservation for another hotel in the overarching network of the rewards system. And I set up, I think it was, I don't remember if it was 14 nights or 21 nights. I can go back later and clarify that. But I set up this reservation and I used my rewards points to do so. It was going to be free for me. And I still had a good chunk of points left over after this. So I had that all set up. I was getting ready. On the day of the beginning of the reservation, I came to the conclusion that I was not going to be able to get over to the new hotel on the same day. And unfortunately, I came to this conclusion fairly late at night. So I went to the website of the location of the new hotel, and I pulled up their phone number and I called them, and it gave me the well-known, famous, "The number you have dialed has been disconnected or is no longer in service." I said, great, let's try Google. Maybe Google has a different phone number for this hotel. And lo and behold, Google had a different phone number for this hotel. I said, wonderful, let me call this number. And I did, and it rang to one of the automated, welcome to hotel, and it was the correct hotel. Please press 1 for whatever, 2 for yada yada yada. And so I pressed the button that should connect me to the front desk, and sat there, and sat there, and sat there, and it rang for a half hour. At which point, it was getting dangerously close to midnight, and I decided I had run out of patience for this endlessly ringing phone number. I then called the customer service number for the chain, the primary chain. My headphones are gonna die. Oh well. For the primary chain, called them up, let them know about the situation, and they tried calling the phone number they had on file for the hotel, which was the same number that had been disconnected. They predictably didn't reach anybody on that number. They did not deign to attempt the number that was posted on Google. They told me, they guaranteed me that I would be able to check in the following day for the full length of time. That is to say, let's say the reservation was 14 days. I was only going to be in the room for 13, but I wanted to pay the entire 14. You know what? I take it back. It wasn't totally for free. because I was going to be paying for some of it. I didn't use the free night, I used a discounted night for this. Anyway, I'm assured by the person from the corporate location that I will be able to check in the following day for the entire period of time, as if I had done so on that day. So I said, great. And I hung up. And I went to work the next day. And then I got to the new hotel after I left work. And went to get fully checked in, get my key, pay up. And I get in there and I give them my name. And they say, are you sure you're at the right location? And I said, yes, I'm very certain. So certain, in fact, because I had used the GPS from the address from the reservation to guide myself there. I knew it was the right place. So I gave them the confirmation number for the reservation, and they pull it up, and they tell me that the reservation had been canceled. I used 31,500 rewards points for this reservation for the discount. That disappeared. I had to make a new reservation and pay for it on the spot. I just ended up actually getting those 31,500 points back a week ago? Which is 2.5 months after the fact. Cool. A little slow on the upkeep, but, you know, that's alright. I paid for the new reservation, did my thing, went to work, came back, went to work, came back. A couple days into this reservation, I get a phone call while I'm at work. Mind you, it's a 14-night reservation, and I'm on like day 5 or whatever, and they're calling me asking, why is your stuff in your room? Excuse me? Yeah, Mr. Harris, why is there stuff in your room still? I said, because I haven't checked out yet. What kind of question is that? Somebody goofed up and I ended up disappeared from their register. Not actually, like not in their virtual system. I think physically, on a physical piece of paper, somebody didn't write something down. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Not a huge deal. Take care of that. At the end of the way that I was doing my extensions, the reservations were Saturday to Saturday. So I would just start up a new reservation on Saturday. I would go down to the front desk in the morning, check into the new reservation, and then at a later point in the day, they can check me out of the old reservation. Stay in the same room. Good stuff. So I set this up the same way, and same thing. Part of the way through the day, I get a call while I'm at work, and the guy says, hey, can you come down to the front desk and pay the rest of your reservation fee? I said, I'm not sure what you're talking about, man. I came down this morning and paid for my reservation. And he said, well, what was the amount? And I said, I don't know, like $880 or something. He's like, yeah, well, they only charged you for $800. You need to pay $80 more. And I looked at my card transactions with my bank, and sure enough, they charged me the lesser amount. But still, it's a little odd that we've already had 3 issues with this. So after I get off work, I pay the remainder of the balance. And the rest of this reservation goes off without a hitch. So I get to the next chunk of 14 nights. And 3 days in, they cancel my reservation again. Mind you, this time, the money had already been taken out of my bank account. It's paid, used, like I was in the room, I was using my key card, and they hit me up with the same thing while I'm at work. Hey, why is all of your shit in your room? And I'm understandably, I think, starting to get a little aggravated about this situation. And they end up telling me, oh yeah, no, the room's canceled, we're sorry, we'll fix that. They fix it. So I go again. Another 14 nights. And this one, I did my payment in the morning, I came back in the afternoon, and I went to the front desk clerk and I said, hey man, I'm not trying to point any fingers, I'm not, I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to have anybody call me when I'm at work asking me why my shit is still in my room that I paid for. And he's, oh, I'm sorry, but no, for sure that won't happen this time. And I say, okay, cool. And it didn't. It didn't happen. One more time. I set up for another 14-night reservation on July 7th. Had to have been. I paid $1,144.75 for 14 nights at the Ramada Inn and Suites at 15 John F Kennedy Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77032. Now, some may find that I'm being so explicit and clear about exactly what hotel this is. And that's because this is 100% a name and shame. So, I paid my $1,144.75 to this hotel. And 2 days later, I am awoken to the sound of rain. Oh, actually, let's roll this real quick, all the way back to the first stay, the first set of 14 nights. There was also a storm then, and in the lobby on the first floor of this hotel, there is water pouring out of a light fixture in the ceiling. Recessed can light? There should be a picture up here of a recessed can light. Yeah, water just pouring out of this sucker. Okay. Anyway, fast forward 2 mornings. So I had stayed in this hotel for 2 nights on the reservation currently being spoken of. And at that point, I was woken up early in the morning to the sound of rain. And I look, and it sure is raining real hard. In fact, it's a hurricane. A hurricane has made landfall this morning. It was Hurricane Beryl. And again, I'm in Houston, Texas. Right? Okay. So, I wake up. It's raining. I'm not exactly thrilled with it being a hurricane. I flip the blinds open and, oh wow, there is actually water dripping down onto the windowsill from the inside of the room. On the inside. Not the outside. There's water dripping down on the inside of the window. And the power's already out, so it's not like I could even go change to another room if I wanted to. So that's cool. And also with power being out, I have few forms of entertainment. So, I had a beer, and I went back to sleep. And then I woke up to the sound of a steady stream of water inside of my room. At which point, I see from the recessed can light, again, and I'm gonna actually throw some footage and pictures here of what we saw in the room. But so coming out of this recessed can light is a steady stream of water. So I get all of my valuables, all of my electronics, and I stash them over in the corner of the room next to the restroom, because the floor is tiled and is slightly elevated compared to the carpeted area of the room where the water was leaking in. And I sit there for a while. I get real bored. My friends fairly far away from me offer me to come stay the night with them. Hang out, have some fun, hurricane party, stay the night. So I did. I limped my car all the way up there. I thought it was going to be, like, basically the only time. It was not. So I limped my car up there. We have our hurricane party. I sleep over. The next day, I wait till midday-ish and head on back to the hotel. I figured with it being right on John F Kennedy Boulevard and the Beltway, right by the Intercontinental Airport of Houston, that it would be a high priority area for Centerpoint to restore power to. Especially considering hotels would be able to offer a room, you know, emergent room for those in need. So I show up, power's still out. The front desk person is actually able to let me back into my room. At which point I see that some of the ceiling has collapsed where water was seeping through onto the bed. But all of my accoutrements are fine. Nothing got waterlogged, nothing got damaged, nothing of my personal possessions. But now the bed is soaked. I didn't really want to sleep in a wet bed, so I was able to open the window to the hotel room on the second floor, which I'm not sure I should be able to do that, but I was, to help the room dry out some. and I sat on the tile and sat on the tile and eventually went to sleep on the tile because I was not going to sleep on the wet bed. The next day, I get up. I really didn't want to just sit around all day doing absolutely nothing, so I drove around a bit. Got me some air conditioning. I was able to recharge my Jackery battery pack. So it was a good little usage of my time. But I get back and the parking lot is effectively empty. They've got 2 shuttle vans parked up in the front, and also I think it was a Tahoe, might have been a Suburban, a Chevrolet SUV of one kind or another. I walk up and they've got a sign taped to the door, says, "Sorry, closed, no power." Fortunately, one of the workers was sitting in the SUV, saw me, reiterated the same point to me, and I was like, "Hey man, I get that. Can I get my things out of the room that I was staying in?" And he said, "Yeah." He let me back into the room. I packed all my shit up, took it down to my car, and had to sit and think, like, what the hell am I gonna do? I am homeless. There's no hotels with any vacancy. What am I gonna do? So, I was invited to, again, stay temporarily with my friends. They are wonderful people and I love them dearly. And so now, instead of a quarter-mile drive between the hotel and my place of employ, where I never had to exceed 45 miles an hour, I have a 40-plus mile drive where the speed limit hits 65. Hence me wanting to gather data about how badly I'm abusing my car. So, I get up to friend's place and I call the customer support number again for the parent company for the hotel. And they take the report, because, you know, realistically, there were 4 nights on that reservation that I could have been in that room. 2 of those nights were under normal circumstances. One of those nights, I was in a different building 40 miles away because there was no power and a leaking roof ceiling. And then the 4th night, I slept on the floor with no power. So I wanted a refund. So I hit them up, and they put in the report. They said either customer care, us, or the hotel will reach out to you within a week. In the same day, I received an email back from the hotel informing me of how much they regret to tell me that they're not going to issue me a refund. Despite the fact that I was only able to successfully utilize 2 out of the 14-night reservation. in doing a bit more research, I have come to find that at least 15 other individuals within the last 9 months on Google reviews alone, not any other source of reviews, just Google, 15 people in the last 9 months have experienced a similar situation. No power, therefore they can't check in or they can't continue to stay, and they will not be issued a refund because it is the hotel's policy to not refund these types of events. And that, I just did the air quote thing. That may not be an actual quote. I will put, again, the exact verbiage of the email that I received here. So, Wyndham, Ramada, bedbugs, theft, fraud, larceny. Are these the ways that you want your brand to be represented? Yes, it is a franchised location. However, as the owner of the brand, you can stipulate, you can make requirements that the franchisees have to follow in order to continue using your brand. Like, I don't know, don't fucking steal from your customers? That sounds like a good one to me. Yeah, so I found out that the email address for the management for this hotel is going to be ambihotels@gmail.com. That is ambehotels@gmail.com. One time phonetically, just in case, is going to be Alpha, Mike, Bravo, Echo, Hotel, Oscar, Tango, Jesus. Hotel, Oscar, Tango, Echo, Lima, Sierra, Tango, X-ray, @gmail.com. So, with the terms and agreements and yada yada nonsense that you agree to when you click the check boxes while setting a reservation online, you agree to not sue Ramada, you agree to arbitration and all that hoopla, which is totally fine by me. If I can't sue you, I will drag your ass through the mud in the court of public. Yes, so ambihotels Texas @gmail.com. Also, just a little Googling and you can find that they apparently run a liquor store in Fort Worth, Texas. I believe La La Liquor is the name. I am wholly of the opinion that the franchisees here have absolutely no right to run or operate a business of any kind if this is the customer support that they provide. Period. This is atrocious. It's disrespectful. It's disgraceful. It's immoral. It's straight up theft. You're stealing from a fucking homeless person. Yeah. Car. The car issue, the car deal. I was rolling around at the speed of sound, got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. I was rolling around and I started losing second. I was able to, in Tiptronic, the manual mode, I was able to shift up past second into third, into fourth, just fine, no big deal, doing great. And then we get to a point where on my information center here on my dash, it says, transmission overheated. Stop immediately. So I did. Or as immediately as I could. I pulled into a driveway of a church, called a tow truck, paid the ridiculously expensive tow fee all the way across the city of Houston, and the car sat there for several months. The battery died twice during that time. I ordered Rostec's HexNet V2 and a license for VCDS. I got a laptop because I didn't have one of those at the time. And eventually, I got a filter and some fluid and said, I guess I'll like kind of do a service. And boy howdy was it necessary, because this is what the transmission fluid filter looked like. Nasty. But there's not really any sparklies there. There's no glitter showing up. So I said cool, installed the new. I didn't actually, and still don't, have the appropriate fill adapter to fill this transmission. So I just used a fluid transfer pump and stuck the hose into the fill tube. Followed the procedures, did the whole 9 yards, went for my test drive, and I still drop into limp mode. But I'm not overheating. I have actually seen it say that it overheated briefly, very, very briefly, a couple of times since then. But I don't think it actually did. I think it just thinks that it did. However, with the with still only going into first and third, being in limp mode, I saw that the safety valves and my clutch pressure values were doing some funky things with a previous data recording session. And I thought, wow, maybe it's one of the solenoids on the mechatronic unit. So I went on eBay, found the appropriate MU, ordered it, had it sent to my boss's house, and ended up swapping it out in the hotel parking lot. Sort of. It was a used unit that I got on eBay, to no great surprise. Unfortunately, when it arrived, the sensor arm, the long sensor arm, was damaged. It arrived damaged. And there's a whole array of issues that prevented me from doing anything about it. I didn't actually open the package until I had the old mechatronics unit out of my transmission, out of my car, fluid drained. And sorry, my brain is cycling here for a second. Yes, the important part. It was a no refund, no return sale. So, the sensor arm's damaged. And I said, that's alright, I guess. Oh, right, no. The other part is that it's a no return, no refund, all sales are final kind of sale. So I couldn't do anything about it, even if I had seen that the sensor arm was damaged. So I said, alright, I'll swap the solenoids over, because I thought it was a solenoid issue anyway to begin with. I said, I'll swap the solenoids over from this new to me used unit onto my unit. And so I did. And I got absurdly sunburnt in the process. Again, I didn't exactly plan things out perfectly. I was wearing this exact tank top, and I didn't have enough water, and I started taking stuff apart and had tools out and parts out and ran out of water, and was only like halfway done with the job, so I just kept pushing through and got pretty dehydrated and again really sunburned. But ended up pushing through that. No difference. I got it all put back together. It made exactly zero difference. No change whatsoever. Which tells me a few things. It's not the solenoids, or is the exact same solenoid on the one that I purchased and the one that I replaced, bad on both of them, which I guess, not entirely out of the realm of possibilities. Or it wasn't the solenoid. Or rephrase that. It wasn't the solenoid, and it was a mechanical issue somewhere else in the transmission. I'm thinking potentially the dual clutch needs to be replaced, or one of the linear bearings for the shift forks could need to be replaced. Or, and this is where I'm really kicking myself, because again, this is how that filter looked. It's entirely in the realm of possibility that there is some foreign material lodged inside of the valve body of the mechatronics unit. And if that so happens to be the case, I was very nearly there. I mean, I pulled all of the old solenoids off of the mechatronics unit, so it was just a handful more Torx screws to remove, and I would have been able to pull the valve body apart. The flip side to that, I guess, is that if I had done so, I did not at the time know that there's the little spring-loaded check valves under a handful of the solenoids, and those balls almost certainly would have disappeared into the ether. Now, I guess I've got backups because of having the old and new sets of solenoids and all, but still, I'm not exactly keen on losing small, fragile pieces of automatic transmission. Semi-automatic transmission? Does not interest me. That being said, I'm sort of at an impasse. I mean, I guess not really. I kind of am. I don't have anywhere to do automotive work currently. In sort of best case scenario, best case Ontario, as a good friend Sean Donnelly would say. Best case Ontario, I find a place to perform automotive work. I pull the mech unit all the way back out. Royal pain in the ass. I pull all of the solenoids off of it. I crack it open and check the inside of the mech unit valve body, and there's X filter material stuck in there. I take it out, I put it all back together, I refill the transmission, perform the adaptations on it, and go on my merry way. That is best case Ontario. Worst case scenario, right about now, I break down. I'm good and well away from my place of work. I'm good and well away from my friend's house where I'm staying. I'm currently on my way to a storage unit to pick up some stuff that I've got in storage. So yeah, breaking down now would truly be the worst case for me. I would cry, actually. would no longer be able to drive to work. I would have to make the decision, do I take a tow truck back to my friend's place and try to figure out how to make work happen? Or do I get the tow back to my place of work and boil to death in my car in the parking lot? Neither is exactly an appealing scenario, truthfully speaking. Yeah. So I guess one step back from worst case scenario, I didn't do a thorough enough, oh no, shit, oh my god, yes, yeah! Well, that was lucky. I forgot that this goes down to one lane. Right, so one step back from worst case scenario, I didn't inspect well enough, and there is some mechanical failure, some damage, some glittery hatred that I missed in my fluid. Which, possible. I'm not exactly a mechanical... I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. I tell people that at work all the time. I do controls. I do electricity, I do programming. That's controls. Electricity and programming. Sometimes air. If I can't plug my laptop into it and fix it with my laptop at work, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to fix it. Now, at home, working on my automobile, my vehicle, I'm willing to get a little sideways with it. I'm willing to get a little frisky. I'm no longer willing, in the overwhelming majority of cases, to do work on anybody else's vehicle. I learned my lesson several years back when a roommate asked for my assistance with her transmission on her truck, and I said, oh yeah, I know how to work on vehicles, let me just we got this garage, I'll do it in there. And I had absolutely replaced a number of, I'd replaced the transmission on the automatic transmission on one truck multiple times with a friend back in Oklahoma. And I knew all of the steps that I needed to perform in order to drop the transmission on this truck. I don't even remember why I was dropping the transmission at this point. I just remember that I was. And I remembered everything I needed to do. You gotta unbolt the transmission from the motor, the bell housing connection point from the motor. You gotta drop the drive shaft, drain all the oil. You gotta you gotta pull the torque converter bolts from the flex plate. And you can pull it out and drop it. You know, after, of course, you also have to disconnect all of the shift lever and the electronics and all of that jazz. But I got the order wrong. Some of you may have noticed this. You see, if you're smart, you disconnect your torque converter from the flex plate before you do all that other shit. I was not smart when I did this, and that ended up being the last thing that I was going to do before dropping the transmission, just like the order that I just said it. And that led me to an interesting problem. Or, I found an interesting problem when I went to do the flex plate torque converter connection bolts. I did not have any tools that could reach the bolt head. See, on, I think it was like a 2005, 2004, something like that, Chevy Colorado with an inline 5. A little, the setup that they got, you can't get a ratchet in there to get at the flex plate bolts, torque converter bolts, and you can't get it with a regular wrench either. Now you see, this is problematic because I discovered this after I had already separated the torque converter from the transmission pump. That is to say, I pulled the transmission back away from the engine a little bit, the bell housing and the motor block were no longer touching. I'm sure there are some that see where this is going. Being unable to reach the torque converter bolts and having the transmission pump disconnected from the torque converter puts you in the position of needing to be able to access the torque converter bolts, because you can no longer just sandwich the two together. The torque converter has to spline up with the transmission pump input shaft just right. I was not aware of this fact, so I just started putting it back together. I said, alright, I'll figure something else out. I'll go figure something else out. I'll go buy an offset wrench, I think is what I had planned on doing. I was going to buy the offset wrench so I could do the thing. Well, I smush it back together and put in the bell housing motor block bolts and start cinching it together with those bolts. And then I went to my old friend Google, did a little researching, and found out that there was like a 99.9999% chance that I had toasted the transmission pump. And I said, well, shit, I certainly am not good enough to work on the internals of an automatic transmission. So I ended up having to tow the vehicle to a mechanic, and I did end up toasting the transmission pump. So he took it to a transmission guy, had that repaired, and then I paid the buck, which is only fair. The vehicle was still drivable at the time when I began this attempted work, and it was not when I stopped attempting working on it. It's only fair that I paid for the actual fix. However, it was a learning moment. It was a lesson. I work on my vehicles. If you need somebody to work on your vehicle, you can pay a mechanic. I work on my vehicles. Alrighty. And with that, that's pretty much all the story I have to tell here. I've got some stuff I'm picking up. And then I'm going to start the drive back up to my friend's place. And then I'm going to post this 100% true story. Ramada Inn and Suites, and I'm gonna double check, verify the address, make sure I didn't throw out the wrong address earlier. If I did, I'm gonna cut this back over. 15350 John F Kennedy Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77032. Y'all are immoral, you're thieves, you're kicking a person while he's down. There's something wrong with you. You've been reported to the Better Business Bureau. I left a nasty Google review. I've made this video. I will continue leaving terrible reviews and doing everything in my power to ensure that any business that you operate in the state of Texas for the rest of your life fails. Or you can give me a fucking refund. Seems like a pretty fucking easy choice to me. Just saying. And no! Alright, well, shit. It dropped out when I was going 92 kilometers an hour, so... Alright. Okay. Holy shamoey. Well, that is a good number of data points. I can work with that. Hello? Alright. Let's just check this real quick. Oh, right. Yeah, we're done. Thanks.